Sir Liam Fox.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I begin by paying tribute to all of our armed forces who've been involved in action in the Red Sea. They always rise to any challenge asked of them with professionalism and courage, and they're a great example that our armed forces are so much more than the hardware that we invest in. Now, I accept the point that the Secretary of State made at the outset that there is no direct link between the conflict in Gaza and what is happening in terms of the Houthi attacks and shipping in the Red Sea. But we, I think, would be wrong not to accept that there's interconnectivity between the tensions in different parts of the Middle East today. And I think that we need to understand the context of that. Back in 2020, when the Trump administration brokered the Abraham Accords between Israel, the UAE, Bahrain, and then Morocco, it was a great exercise in leadership to bring reconciliation to a part of the world that had seen too much conflict for too long. It has resulted in a big improvement economically in business and trade between the countries involved, and in people-to-people relationships, with around 500,000 Israelis, for example, visiting Dubai in the last few years, something that would have been unthinkable just a decade ago. But there was always one country that did not want the Abraham Accords to succeed, and that was Iran. They did not want the Abraham Accords to succeed because they didn't believe in a two-state solution, because they didn't believe that Israel should exist. Ayatollah Khamenei has got tremendous consistency in his views about the purity of the Islamic Revolution, his detestation of the West, and his contempt for the existence of the State of Israel. Anyone who's interested should read the book Reading Khamenei by Karim Sanjapur for the Carnegie Endowment for Peace. Iran was never going to want to see peace between the Arab states and Israel because it threatened Iran's hegemony, as it saw it, over the Islamic parts of the Middle East. And the big question was always, what would Saudi Arabia do? A major player in security of both the Red Sea and the Gulf. And when I saw the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia on Fox News saying that every day he believed that Saudi Arabia was closer to peace and reconciliation with Israel, my first reaction was Iran will react against it. And whether it would react against it through its proxies in Gaza, funded and armed by Iran, Hamas, or Hezbollah, funded and armed by Iran in Lebanon, or whether it be funded and armed by Iran in Yemen through the Houthis, it turns out, in fact, we now see all three actually being active. And we need to understand that that axis of resistance, as Iran calls it, against the West, is something that they will keep going as long as they possibly can. They will not seek peace. They will resist peace at all times. Now, in the Red Sea, we are absolutely right, as many members have said, and I don't want to go over that territory again, to say that the Houthi threat is a specific one that we need to deal with. For the UK, 95% of our exports and imports go by sea. For the whole of the global trading environment, 15% of all global trade passes through the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. Not to act, as many members have said, would leave international maritime law in tatters, and with no deterrence there whatsoever, it would risk a bout of global inflation. We saw what disruption could do from the conflict in Ukraine. The same would be true whether to be permanent disruption in the Red Sea. And we would have disruption of vital supply chains, including food and medicines, that so many people will depend upon. So we're right to take the action, but we need to come back to understanding the role of Iran in this process and other processes. We have seen Iran develop drones sent to Russia by Iran Air to oppress the people of Ukraine. And yet Iran Air still fly out of Heathrow Airport in the United Kingdom. Why? Why is it tolerated? We've seen the money moved around the global financial system by Iran to fund its proxies, but we've still got two Iranian banks trading in the City of London with us within a stone's throw of the Bank of England. Why? Why is that happening? We've seen, as my honourable friend, the chair of the Select Committee, said earlier, we've seen videos of anti-Semitic speeches by IRGC generals now being investigated by the Charity Commission. The regulator is looking at footage of Death to Israel chants on an Islamic charity UK premises. And we've seen two of the videos showing talks by IRGC leaders talking about an apocalyptic war on the Jews. And again, as my honourable friend earlier, the IRGC actually took responsibility this week for a military attack on a foreign territory, something they haven't had the audacity to do before. So again, I ask, why are the IRGC not a proscribed organisation in this country? They are clearly involved in a wide range of activity that is dangerous in relation to Britain's national interests and our security. I have never once, when I've raised this issue in the House, been given a clear answer from the front bench as to why we will not ban Iranair, why we will not stop Iranian banks in the city, and why we will not prescribe the IRGC. I live in a little bit of extra hope that we might get some answer tonight. Very briefly, I give way to my honourable friend.
Thank you. The answer that the government so far has given on the IRGC is that because it's an arm of the state, it is very difficult to prescribe an arm of the state. I'm not saying I agree with that answer. That's the answer given. Is there a way around it?
It's an answer. It's not a very convincing answer, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I hope we'll get better from my right honourable friend, who I know is well capable of giving us greater detailed answers than that tonight. We actually face a choice in the Red Sea and beyond. We are either going to deal with the political problems that we face, or rather than the rosy future that the Abraham Accords offered us, we can go back to 1971 with a radicalised generation in the Middle East and return to all the problems we saw, hijacks and Munich and all the things we thought we had left behind us. We need to drive a solution. There must be, as the Prime Minister said earlier this week, a commitment to a two-state solution, and it's not acceptable for anyone to put a political bloc on that. We need to see security guarantees given for both Israel and the Israeli people who have a right to live in peace and any future Palestinian state. That will require an international peace agreement. It will require the United States and Saudi Arabia and others all to be willing to commit to that peace. It will require a new way of looking at the politics in the region, and it is right that Hamas cannot be part of that if there is to be any way forward. And there will need to be massive economic reconstruction in the area as we go forward. And to end, Madam Deputy Speaker, if I can just say what I said before in the House, and that is, when we look at the whole region, that peace is not just the absence of war or conflict, but the freedom from the fear of conflict or oppression or terror. It comes with concepts of rights that have to apply to all people, and not just rights and dignity, but enforceable rights and dignity. And only when all the people of the Middle East, the wider region, can actually have access to all of these do we have any chance of achieving the peace that is not just part of their security, but part of our security.
Layla Moran.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and it's an honour to follow